You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going to be talking about England's 2-1 series defeat to India, or India's 2-1 series victory over England, depending on which spin you want to put on that. It was an entertaining series, in a sense. There was stuff we learned. We'll be talking about all of that. And to do the talking, I, Jack Hope, am joined by Cameron Ponsonby. How you doing, Cameron?
I'm very well, thank you. The pronunciation gets better every time. It's nice
I still don't know.
Progress.
Is it Ponsonby? Is it a U sound that I should be?
Yeah, it's like, so the official answer is it's the same way you say London. So in the same way that London's like a double LONDON. My surname's PONSON, but it's a very silly name. So I've never.
It's fine. It's a stupid language. We've got 14 vowel sounds. I'm learning Spanish.
I didn't know that.
They've got 5. Everything is just as it's written.
Well, I've learned already.
Yeah,
I'm happy.
Before we get into the cricket, just a quick message. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at the Cricket Pod, and we are on Patreon, patreon.com/the Cricket Pod. From $4 a month, you get access to bonus shows and content, a Discord channel, and there's a bunch of other stuff as well. But the list is so exhaustive that I've forgotten the second half of it. But yeah, patreon.com/the Cricket Pod keeps us in business. It's the main incentive for us to actually do the podcast. So if you like what we do, get in there. Right, Cameron, there were 2 matches, Saturday and Sunday. Do you want to summarize which one of them would you like to summarize?
I can summarize the third game.
Cool.
So this third game was actually a really, really entertaining match. It was at Trent Bridge, where everyone scores loads of runs, and so England have managed to get themselves up above 200. And I always enjoy it when teams get over 220 overs and they go, it's about par that. And you're like, brilliant, let's go. What's about to happen? David Milan batted very, very well, got 77 off 39. Jason Roy kind of rounded off like a pretty torturous series. He got 27 off 26, which in a game where over 400 runs are scored is a bit rough. In reply, India looked pretty much out of it. Like their top order kind of fell by the wayside. They were stuffed. They were 31 for 3 after 5. And you kind of think that's kind of game over before it's really got started. And then Surayakumar Yadav has played like one of the best T20 innings of all time. He's got 117 off 55 balls. I saw some CricViz stat, which was like his false shot percentage was 15%, which is what it is in test matches. So he was doing the Shane Warne, like tee off, not recklessly kind of vibe. It was perfect batting. However, they still lost. So he got out just towards the end and India fell 15 runs short. 15 runs short.
It was 17 runs.
17, I beg your pardon.
15 runs. It's around that. I'll accept that. So the series finishes 2. This is definitely the game to talk about. The second of the 3 T20s was another, well, it was a bit of a duff game, to be honest. And it's definitely the innings to talk about as well. Cameron, can you imagine what it would feel like to score 117 or 55 balls and lose?
I can imagine the losing bit. I can't imagine doing the former bit. And they always, I know this is kind of stereotypical club cricket chat, but the idea of like he's walking off and he's looking gutted. He's like, oh, I'm so sad. And I'm like, no, you're not sad. Like this is like realistically, these games, the results don't matter that much. Like the teams are both trying to learn things going into the World Cup. And Yadav is there trying to make sure that he has a spot in that team. And like, there's no better way to do that. Like what his priority for this series would have been, how can I make sure I'm in a better position to play in this World Cup when I will care about the team? But for now, it's about me. And he did that very well.
Yeah, it would be quite astonishing if they decided to go in a different direction. After this, he's been pretty good across the whole series as well, to be honest. It's definitely been a plus series for Yadav. I don't think I've ever really seen a player strike the ball as cleanly as he was. Maybe Bairstow in test matches. So that was a lie. I've lied there, but it was an incredible display of sort of ball striking. 117 or 55 balls. Just looking at it, 212 strike rate. That's preposterous. The next best score is 28. at 121. Like, where was the rest of the team?
I think you don't know. Was it hard? This is the thing. This is what was quite confusing, is that England got 200 and they got 215, which is like it's a massive difference. You're basically going at 11s from ball one rather than 10s. And so when India were kind of going at like a run of ball for the majority of the power play, and as you said, that he's outscored his next best teammate by 89 runs. Like it's a laughable amount. You kind of trying to work out was he playing in the kind of truer reflection of the pitch, or was everyone else? And maybe his innings was even better than we kind of give it credit for. And batting wasn't that easy out there, even though people were saying 200 was par. But yeah, it was an amazing innings where he was driving the ball like over third man.
Yeah, that was mad.
It didn't really make sense how he was doing it, and it was kind of bowler independent. It was like, I don't really care where you're going to bowl. I know where I'm going to hit this ball. And there was an over that Moeen Ali bowled, I think the penultimate over, and they had that field I think we spoke about on the last episode, where the spinner has point, backward point, short third man, short fine leg, and then everyone in front of squares on the fence. And he was kind of flopping it over the men in, and then he was cutting it just to the right of point so he could still get 4 there. And then he was going over the long on. You know, this guy is hitting the ball where he wants to on demand. And unfortunately, or fortunately for him, he's had a great day out. He's had a lovely time. I hope he enjoyed it. We enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I think it's alarming from the England point of view that that the bowling still looked reasonably shaky, even with 215 runs on the board. I think there was a point where just before Shreyas Iyer was out, probably, I think it was 66 off 30. And I was watching it and I thought, India are going to get this. Like, England have not got that. They haven't got they're not going to be able to defend over 5 overs, 66 runs against Surayakumar Yadav here. Like, he needs one person to score some runs at the other end, and they win this match. Are there any winners, do you think, across this series? Well, I mean, there are, but who are the winners? Maybe that's a better question to ask. Who are the winners from an England bowling point of view when they've got for 200 in every match?
I'd say, weirdly though, I think there are winners. I think Richard Gleeson's one. I don't know. I couldn't tell you where he exists on England's depth chart. Like, will he ever play another game? No idea. But it's a lovely story. He was very late to the professional game. I think he made his debut like 27, 28. He's a teacher at like a sixth form college up in Preston, and it's the great line where he has to ask his employers, like, do you mind if I play against India next week?
You're having a laugh.
But genuinely, he's a teacher at school, and so it's called Myerscough College. I'm pretty sure I read it in Matt Roller's report for Cricinfo, and yeah, so he's had to ask permission to miss a few days of school just so he can get.
What if they take him to Australia? Quit his job.
I reckon. Yeah, you'll go. You go. Can I have a bit more time off, please? I remember this is a complete tangent, but I remember when I was 14. I was 13 actually, and it was the 2009 T20 World Cup. And I went to a school, and my friend had got tickets for the semi-final, and I went to the kind of registration office and said, "Can I have a day off? I'm going to go to the T20 World Cup semi-final." And they went, "Yeah, that's really exciting. Go for it." And then she said, "Who are you playing?" I went, "Well, no, I'm not playing. I'm watching." And she was like, "Oh." And it was like, she almost wanted to rescind the offer. But for a while, she thought the 13-year-old boy in year 9, was going on to Trent Bridge to play against Pakistan. And I was like, I don't. One day, never. So Richard Gleeson, definite winner. I don't know if it enhances his position from kind of a millionth on the depth chart to like 1,000th. And so if enough people fall over, he can get into like the squad for this World Cup. I think Chris Jordan's had a bit of renaissance. His first 2 games, he kind of abandoned his Yorker, and it went really well. And then the last game, he started bowling his Yorker again. He started going for more runs again. But he's had a really good series, like cameos with the bat at the end. Numbers wise, he went at like 7s across the series, averaged 10 with like the wickets he was picking up. And Topley had a good series as well. But again, I don't know where Topley actually exists on this. Like, does he play? Is he the first choice? Like, I don't I don't know. So there are winners. There are definitely people who have advanced their stock within the England's bowling setup. And I'd say they had the podium. I'd say would go Gleeson, Jordan, Topley, and David Willey. It will play for England for the rest of time, and no one will ever really notice. Sorry, David.
Yeah. No, it's probably a fair reflection of where things are. I think it's quite a big worry for England. You messaged me and we were talking about talking points for this show, and you put it out that England have lost 7 of their last T20s, which is quite astonishing for a team that has like 5 players in the top 5 who start and are the stars in the IPL, which, you know, traditionally we think of as the pinnacle of T20 cricket, or maybe not traditionally, but I think of as the pinnacle of T20 cricket. I mean, like if you've got, well, Bairstow, Butler, Moeen Ali, Livingston, Roy may have played, but you know he decided not to. He took a break. I think Roy probably would have played. That's a very strong top 5 to be a losing T20 side, and the bowling has probably got a lot to do with that, I reckon.
Yeah, I think so. It's 7 of the last 10 ODIs they've lost, and that goes back to their last group stage game in the UAE when they lost to South Africa. And I think it's almost becoming a little bit like the Test record, where the Test side had 1 win in 17, and it was one of those things where there's caveats next to every event. It's like, oh, well, we didn't have the IPL lads for the New Zealand series. Oh, it was spinning tops in India. Oh, we didn't have Stokes at home to India, and we didn't have these players and we didn't have those players. But eventually the record kind of becomes what it is. And that's the same, I think, here with the T20 game in that, it's a group stage game, then it's a semi-final, and then we went to the Caribbean in January, and we didn't take some of our best players, and we had some people missing, and then again Bairstow's not playing in this India series, and etc. But eventually in the dressing room you go like, oh, we haven't actually won that many games. So it's one of those ones. I think it'll be very quickly resolved in the next kind of series. Like if they wipe South Africa 3-0, you go, oh, forget about it, it's all fine. And if they lose another series 2-1, and now it's 9 defeats in the last 13, and then you go to Pakistan to play 7 2020s there, and you could lose 4-3 there whilst still playing quite well, and you've just got this losing record over a year when you're going into a tournament. So I think that kind of has to be a concern a little bit. And I think the other concern in terms of bowling is that I don't think they know if Rashid's not playing or gets injured for whatever reason. I don't think they know what they want to do there. That this was the perfect series for Parkinson to play 3, and they just sacked him off. They bowled him 4 in the first game, 2 in the second, and then dropped him for the third. And that spin, like India did just literally look at Livingston and Moeen Ali and go, "We're going to whack you as far as we can." Like it was a very, very simple tactic, and it worked.
Yeah, I mean, it does leave them a little bit exposed. I think the sort of general lack of penetration makes it quite difficult to be a part-time spinner in the England team. I'm not sure you ever really get an opportunity to bowl to somebody who isn't already completely set. Or, you know, sometimes if you're Moeen Ali, you get to bowl in the power play, which is equally as difficult. I think on that point, that might partly resolve itself not playing in England. I do think
that's interesting.
The pitches that they played this series on have been about as unconducive to spin as you could make a cricket pitch. Basically, there's no variable bounce. It doesn't really go sideways. It's like tiny boundaries all over the place, and you're just seeing people whack through the line and deposit the ball, you know, miles. There's not really a safe point to introduce a spinner. So I wouldn't completely write any of them off, but I think the bowling attack in general looks bad, Cameron. I think
it's tough lines for England.
It's probably the best top 5 in the world, with maybe the 8th best bowling attack or something like that. It's tricky.
That's exciting.
It's exciting.
Let's just have 220 all every game.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, from a data perspective, you probably actually prefer that to be the other way around. Like, you tend to find that better bowling attacks in T20 cricket produce more consistent results. Like, or certainly over like a tournament.
Yeah.
And by a tournament, I really mean like a 10-match tournament, not necessarily a World Cup. I
Sure.
think that England going into a World Cup will still be one of the favourites because the other teams will do such weird stuff, particularly like you know, bat to post 140, and then it like you know it doesn't matter if your bowlers are rubbish. If the other team are aiming for 140, then like you're going to be okay. So they kind of have to hope for that, but we'll see what happens in the second T20. Do you want to summarise that one as well, if you got it up?
Oh,
We'll kind of do this in reverse chronology, and we'll probably talk about some of the India themes after that. I might have it up if you want me to do it.
You can go for it.
Cool. India batted first in this. It was weird doing this kind of asynchronatically. They got off to a pretty good start. Rohit Sharma and Rishabh Pant making hay early on. I think India were up to 49 before the end of the fifth over. Into Richard Gleeson, and we've kind of we've spoiled this a little bit by talking about winners and losers, but he gets Rishabh Pant, Rohit Sharma, and Virat Kohli as his first 3 wickets in international cricket.
Well,
at one point he had figures of like 3 overs bowled, 3 for 8 or something like that. It was a great introduction. His first over in international cricket in T20 cricket was it a wicket maiden or was it a double wicket maiden?
No, he had like this is what almost added to it. He like went for 4 if it's like his second or third ball, and then he just got everyone out. Okay. Like it was like 1.1 overs, like 3 for something stupid like that.
Look, he bowled a maiden. That's the main thing. The Indian middle order didn't fire really. Surayakumar, Yadav, and Hardik combining for 27 off 26, not great. But Jadeja at the end with Harshal Patel slogging it as well. Managed to get India up to a pretty reasonable 170. Now, I think England would have fancied their chances, to be honest, of chasing 170. But a bit like the first match, they struggled with Bhuvi Kumar, who picked up both the openers for a combined 4 runs. Jason Roberts was that first ball of the innings, wasn't he? Yeah, which is basically the definition of a bad start. Livingston played some nice shots for 4, like doing the whole Viv Richards whip it through mid-wicket thing before Jasprit Bumrah bowled him. And that was kind of it. Moeen Ali and David Willey put up some resistance to get England within 50, but it wasn't really a close match, this one. India's bowlers once again blew England away. India's frontline bowling, they obviously changed it around to the third match. But Bhuvi Kumar, Bumrah, Chahal, Harshal Patel, and then like Hardik and Jadeja chipping in with with more overs. That's that I think we said this on Friday. That's pretty formidable, isn't it, Cameron?
I mean, yeah, we've talked about Gleeson bowling and maiden in that game. Both Kumar and Bumrah managed to get one in. And there can't be too many games where there's 2 maidens in an innings. I think it sounds like from your saying, like if you want that, you're talking about England, you go like they've got this amazing top 5, arguably the best in the world, but the bowling's letting them down. I'm not going to say that India have a weak top 5, but India are potentially the inverse of that, where their bowling attack is stronger than their top 5. Is that a fair comment? Or?
Yeah, it's an interesting one with India. I think they could pick maybe probably pick a top 3 batting lineup in the world to go with the best bowling lineup in the world. I think they probably end up with the best bowling lineup in the world and then like 5th best batting. That might be a bit harsh. You know, I'm sure some people will come back and say,
I can't believe
some people will come back and say that's wrong, but I don't know. I don't even think it's Kohli. I mean, looking at this top 5 from the match yesterday, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, and Shreyas Iyer should never play in the same team together. Like it's basically as simple as that. They're trying to shoehorn Pant in at 2, and he's a good player, yeah. But is he the best? Is he actually your, I don't know, 2nd or 3rd best opener? Like, would Sanju Samson maybe not be better?
So what would your top 5 be for India?
My top 5 for India, I think I'd go with Prithvi Shaw, KL Rahul, Surayakumar, Yadav, and Sanju Samson. I think, and none of those, well, one of those players played.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's.
It's not like the thing to say, Cameron, is that like it's not that Rohit Sharma, Rishabh Pant, Virat Kohli, and Surayakumar Yadav, the team from yesterday, is a bad top four. It's a good top four, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's a little bit one pace, and it's made more one pace by the number 5. By the way, I'd probably have Hardik at number 5 to balance that team. You've got 3 guys in there who aren't going to go extremely quickly. You've got Rishabh Pant playing in a role that he hasn't done for a little while. I'm not saying he can't do it, but it's different to what he has been, I don't know if you like, practicing in the last 3 years. Surayakumar Yadav is playing where he's supposed to be playing, or maybe about 3, but it's like, I just think it could be a lot more dynamic. It's a very safe selection, and what will happen is when your bowlers have an off day and you do go for 200, that top 5 will really struggle to ever chase that. And on the other side, it's going to end up posting scores between 155 and 185 quite regularly, and even with a good bowling attack on the right deck, that the score, those scores, particularly on the lower end, are very chaseable. You saw that at the World Cup. They did it against Pakistan. They were like, oh, well, we lost a couple of early wickets. Now we're just going to knock it around for 18 overs and see if we can get 60 at the death. And it's just not what a nation with as much talent as they have should be restricting themselves to. That's the sort of frustration. Like, India could be fielding the best T20 team in the world. Instead, they're in the conversation. Like it should be India are the best team. They've got a 40% chance of winning the World Cup. Instead, it's like, well, India are quite good. Pakistan are quite good. If England sort their bowling out, they'll be quite good. And you've got New Zealand as the dark horse. Oh, and Australia at home, they're the champions. So maybe India have got a 20% chance of winning. Like, it's still one of the favourites, but not really a clear favourite. That's sort of where I'm coming at with my criticism.
My big question and interest in the India team at the moment is Umran Malik at any good? Like, he bowls rapid and it's really exciting to watch. But like, he bowls almost like so fast that anytime I've seen a batter ever touch the ball against him, it's just flown to the boundary. And like in his T20 career, he's got an econ of over 9. Like, in his 3 T20 internationals, he's going over 12s. And I'm kind of wondering, are they like trying to mold this player on the international scene? Because they're like, there is someone here who can bowl 95 miles an hour. We want him to be amazing. And he's just got to learn here, basically.
I think that's probably where they're coming from. Like he blows very hot and cold, and I think probably at the moment is quite limited to one role. Like, it's in the IPL, there were matches where he bowled in the power play and bowled at the death, and he got dispatched a bit like yesterday. Like he just doesn't have the accuracy basically to bowl at those points in the game. When Sunrisers used him best, they just bowled him 4 overs in a row, like 9, 11, 13, 15. And he was quite difficult to play because, he was bowling to people who were maybe there to hit spin, who weren't expecting to have to deal with a guy bumping them at 95 miles an hour. Like, someone bowling that fast is going to produce, like, I guess, unusual moments. So there were a couple of matches where he picked up like 3, 4, or 5 wickets. And I think there was one game where he picked up a 5-er and they lost, and he basically won the match, and then they managed to blow up. Sunrisers are pretty inept, but in that middle overs role, he could be really good, I think. But the problem is dropping him into that India side. That's where you've got Chahal bowling. That's where you've got Jadeja bowling. That's where you've got Harshal Patel bowling. Is there room really for somebody to bowl there? I don't think he gets in over Harshal Patel, and they're not going to pick him as an extra seamer and not play a spinner, and he's not going to bump Bumrah or Bhuvneshwar Kumar, who can bowl 2 up front and 2 at the death. So it's quite limited at the moment.
I guess that's where the kind of like the the almost uncompetitive nature of bilateral series can kind of come into their own, in that, say you've got a 3-match series or 5-match series or whatever, you can take him with you and be like, we'll give you a game. We want you to, because Ravi Shastri on comms was asked who's the fastest Indian bowler of all time. And just without blinking, he was like, Umran Malik, 100%.
Yeah, he's fast.
He was like, he's so much faster than any bowler we've ever produced before. And to have that talent and to have that someone there who you can potentially use, like if you play him a handful of games every year, so he learns his trade, and then in 5 years or 3 years or whatever, you've got a guy who's skilled and bowling at 95 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
In his defense, I think he's played like 14 IPL matches and only ended up playing for Sunrisers, I think, because he was a net bowler. Like he was a net bowler, and they were like, "Oh, he's quite quick. Let's get him along." And this was 2 years ago. It wasn't he's risen from basically nowhere. If you look at his Cricket Info profile, he's played 3 T20 internationals, 3 first-class matches, 1 List A game, and 25 T20s. That's like no cricket.
Yeah,
it's only 22, but it's not. He's not been with the stateside for ages as this known quantity getting coaching. He's just sort of, almost come out the ground as this force of nature, and people have taken notice of it. But yeah, there's some development needed to make him a well-rounded T20 bowler. He'll have moments of unbelievable quality, or game, like he has the power to change basically any game just because of his raw pace. But if you don't really know where the ball's going or when you should be bowling certain deliveries, then you are going to be open to getting a bit of punishment against the best players in the world, I think.
Cool. I'm excited to see it.
Anything else from an India point of view that we should cover, do you think? I mean, Kohli was bad.
You can take Kohli if you want. So I don't have any other. I don't have anything else.
Well, I mean,
on an India standpoint, personally,
yeah, it goes. I've said what I think my top 5 should be, and it doesn't include Virat Kohli. It doesn't include their captain either.
Oh yeah, I missed that.
So I don't. And I think Virat Kohli to some extent has been a bit of a meat shield for Rohit Sharma in this. He's got 66 runs at 22.
That's such a disgusting phrase. Meat shield. I've never heard that.
Well, like a human shield. I mean, it's Virat Kohli's got 11-1 or something.
I didn't know what it was, but I got it.
Rohit Sharma's not really done anything. Hasn't done anything for about a year in T20 cricket, and people are happy to roll with that. I don't know. I mean, I think if you look at the two sides side by side, India's bowling it's really clear what they want to do, and when they make a change, it's pretty clear what the person coming in is going to do. Like they rarely replace a bowler with a bowler that's just completely different.
Yeah,
which is what England do quite regularly. We've got a power play bowler, we're going to replace him with a death specialist. It's like, well, okay. We replace a leg spinner with a left arm seamer. Like it's the role definition on the bowling side for England, I think, leaves something to be desired. I think the same can be said of India. I think they just pick like 6 guys and like go and bat how you want. Whereas England, it hasn't worked in a couple of the T20s, but it's pretty clear that if you bat number 1 or number 2, you're expected to just sort of go for it. Like it's maybe you've got an over or 2 if you're just Butler to settle in. You're supposed to go for it. Dawid Malan, we're kind of happy for you to be this anchor guy. We're not. Everyone always talks about his 10-ball strike rate. If England really cared that much, they'd have got rid of him by now. They're obviously happy with the stability that he provides for the rest of the order. 4 and 5, you're supposed to sort of go out and whack it, and then you've got specialist finishers down the order to kind of perform a certain role. And you don't see players sort of moving from one role to the other very regularly. You see people picked to do specific things in games, and if they're replaced, somebody comes in and they're given a remit to do what the guy who was just dropped was doing. In the India side, that just is not the case. Like it's that they're picking completely different types of players to do. It's not a logical strategy to go from Deepak Huda smacking the ball everywhere to like Virat Kohli, the anchor guy batting at 120. Like these are not You're not. Shreyas Iyer is not a like-for-like replacement for Hardik Pandya. He's just not going to bat like him. Like it doesn't make sense that you would make that change. That's India's problem, and that's why I think you look at those two sides both side by side. That's I guess both of their weaknesses. Right, Cameron, we are on a little bit of a clock. We've got a few questions from Twitter. I think Max asked us one as well. Will Richard Gleeson go for the World Cup? Oh, go to the World Cup. So you answer that really quickly. We'll get through these in a sentence or two each, and I'll get the Twitter ones up.
I've absolutely no idea. Like, I don't know if he'll ever play for England again. It's like Jamie Overton gets 97 and bowls quite well on Test debut. You're like, well, you might never play again. Happened to Matt Fisher in the Windies. Like England just have right arm seamers whenever they need one at any point, and they always seem to do quite well. And then we never see them again. So good luck to him. I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Chris Jordan, if he had a bad series, might not be going to the World Cup. And I'm pretty sure he will be now as England's most important bowler. So Hunter on Twitter asks, is David Malan at number 3, even if Stokes and Bairstow are available?
Yes, I think he is now. Because I think I wrote it down. I think the top 7 for England is just Roy, Butler, Malan, Bairstow, Stokes, Livingston, Ali. I think that's kind of fairly settled in their mind of what their first choice would be.
I think that Stokes might switch out for Curran.
So it's interesting. Yeah. I think that's a different question whether Stokes
and then
plays
then
or
you
not.
bat Livingston at 5 and Curran down the order a bit.
But the whole kind of like there's no space, like Milan kind of blocking someone else in this lineup doesn't really. It used to exist, but Morgan used to be there, and now he's retired. And Joe Root used to be in this conversation. Now he's just not. And so you've kind of you've lost 20% of the logjam, as it were, that the conversation used to be around. Milan probably was under quite a bit of pressure, or a growing pressure until yesterday. But then he's kind of played this perfect innings, and he's got himself in for however many more games.
Rouge asked, what will the top 6 for England and India be at the T20 World Cup? I think we've answered what we think. I think the England one, you'll be right. It'll be the Stokes Curran discussion is the only point there. India, literally no idea. Like
Virat Kohli at 1 and 2.
Rohit Sharma came out and defended Virat Kohli and was like, "Oh, you don't drop a player because of some bad recent form when they've been great for a decade." And it's like he's been bad for 3 years. it's a long time. We've got a question about the takeaways for both teams, but I think we did that. And then one last one on India. If we had to go, and this is a combo question of Vivek and Rajdeep, if you had to pick one of Harshal Patel or Arshdeep Singh, who would you go for? Cameron, you've seen them both. Who would you go for?
I was going to turn that question around on you and be like, who do you think?
I think Harshal Patel does something that is a bit different to the other options that India have. If Bhuvneshwar Kumar breaks down, then Arshdeep definitely plays, or Bumrah doesn't play for some reason, then Arshdeep definitely plays. But at the T20 World Cup, playing your best bowling lineup, Bhuvi and Bumrah should open the bowling and bowl at the death. Harshal and Chahal should deal with your middle overs, and maybe you can bowl Harshal 1 or 2 overs at the death as well. And then you've got Hardik and Jadeja to finish things off, and you've got a really, really good bowling attack with bowlers who can bat, and like you're going to bat to 8 in that lineup, and you'll have loads of variation from Harshal. So I'd go with that. But Arshdeep is a very, very good player, and I expect his time will come. Cool. So I think we're about done. That's the T20s. ODIs are coming up next. We were going to preview them. I just asked for your prediction. What do you think will happen in that?
It starts tomorrow. There's just cricket all the time. 2-1 England.
I think
scoring runs.
I think England will have a much better chance than that. I think that, I think their bowling weaknesses are not as pronounced in that format, and they've got some pretty good batters. So 2-1 at home sounds reasonable, but it could go either way. Cool. All right. Thanks, Cameron. See you later.
Thanks very much.